You are listening to Offensive Lines with Marlon and Boyd. Small stakes NFL gambling for the average fan.
Welcome to Offensive Lines. I'm Marlon.
I'm Boyd.
And here we go. After a slight loss last week, we are going at week 2 right now. If you want to hear our opinions on anything ranging from Ray Rice to the action last Sunday, check out our podcast yesterday. It's up on the site. And this podcast is all about gambling. Anything to add?
No, I don't think. I think you covered everything.
Okay. I'm tired. I got to get to bed tonight.
You came in prepared. I came in half asleep. There you go.
All right.
That's where you stand right now. No.
Okay, the Thursday night game this week. Pittsburgh is +3 going to Baltimore. For me, this is nothing but a stay away.
Oh, Jesus. I was thinking the Steelers all the way. Just in the last 2 minutes, I'm thinking the Ravens have had all this shit. Joe Flacco's who we thought he was. The Ravens, all this Ray Rice bullshit, they're answering questions every day.
I hear what you say about Flacco, but the Ravens answering questions, remember Miami last year with the bullying scandal? Do you know what Baltimore is going to turn this into is we are team, we are family.
Yeah, but they stink.
Flacco stinks.
Their whole team stinks.
I hate Thursday games too, as a general rule.
No, I know.
Particularly driven they're driven by running backs. Baltimore appears to maybe have one, but that was like a third stringer coming in and playing late, and he got some yards. Le'Veon Bell had a really good game. So I see your Pittsburgh argument there, but I just really still feel stay away.
No, that's fine. There's just some of the spreads this week are so fucking ridiculous that I had trouble finding 3 games, and then I started thinking Pittsburgh because Baltimore was awful. Again, this isn't an anomaly. This is a trend.
Yeah, but there's another trend in these games, too. These games are always decided by 3, one way or the other.
Yeah, but they're not the same teams anymore. Like Pittsburgh giving up 24 straight to Cleveland. I just answered my own question. Moving on.
All right.
I guess
Who
we
are
have
we
to
taking
pick
for
these.
the pool picks?
I'm taking the Steelers +3.
I think I'm going to take Baltimore -3.
Oh, trying to catch up already from last week, are you?
I honestly believe the big thing is going to be Baltimore will make a big deal about rallying as a team and a family. And I don't think Pittsburgh's good enough to necessarily fight that defense. That's my only argument. It's not a strong one by any means.
I'm just taking Roethlisberger and the running game.
No, and
take the better quarterback and the better running game on a Thursday night.
I'm not going to fight you on that one, Boyd.
But
this is as much a hunch bet, which is where I go most Thursdays. It's just a hunch bet.
And I know that Thursdays should always favor the home team, but
no, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. My knowledge of geography is pretty weak, but it's not an enormous road trip.
This goes to my thing that they want you to bet Baltimore. The same reason what they did with the Rams last week. They've got the Ravens at +100. Just enticing you to bet them at -3. And the Steelers -120 +3. So you know where the money's going.
Fair enough.
They want to even it out. And I know you say bet. Well, I know I would normally bet against the public. But when Vegas gives you +100, there's a reason.
I know, Boyd,
they're
but
basically
do you feel
the underdog.
strongly enough to really get into this on this game?
No, I know. No, I know. But the Ravens are the underdog on the money line.
Yeah, that's a disconnect for sure. A good point.
So,
Which, by the way, I'm not looking at. as I said to you pre-podcast, that's the one part of information I don't have on my screen right now. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
And just for everybody listening, we didn't give the tally of where we were with our picks for last week. And I'm only bringing this up because I'm in the lead.
Yeah, no.
I had 8 right.
We didn't get to that last
you
night.
And Doug each, you and Doug each have 7.
Oh, okay. Good point. Really good point. Appreciate that. And just one thing on that. Throw us as followers on Twitter, because if we have a late game change, like, the example I used was Aaron Rodgers is run down by a lawnmower. We might want to change our picks. If we make any late changes to our pool picks before the Sunday games, we will post them on Twitter. And
Doug, same goes for you.
Absolutely.
Just send out a tweet if you're changing your picks once they're sent in. And I'll tweet that to Doug tonight or tomorrow.
Sounds good. Okay, let's move on to football. The next game up is New Orleans, -6.5 at Cleveland.
I don't mind this one, but New Orleans on grass on the road stink.
Yeah.
They have trouble covering large numbers. Last year, they barely squeaked out a win against the Buccaneers, who were crap. They still had Josh Freeman at quarterback. I think they lost in Tampa Bay the year before.
Yeah,
and Cleveland put up some points. Like the Saints defense, I know Brian Hoyer isn't Matty Ice, but the Saints defense gave up 37 points.
And
400 and some yards passing.
Hoyer did not. Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking we may have bought too much into the Ryan defensive renaissance in New Orleans. I know Atlanta has skill positions, like all over, and I know Cleveland really doesn't. But I'm not comfortable with this number either. In fact, I'm leaning towards Cleveland at home to at least cover. 6.5 seems a lot for a New Orleans team that certainly didn't blow me away last Sunday.
No, but Cleveland, they did put up 34 on Atlanta on the road.
Yeah, their offense is good, but Cleveland's defense, I think, it was a shaky first half for both teams in the Pittsburgh-Cleveland. But that defense shut Pittsburgh down relatively well until late in the game.
Yeah, but I think they went like the fucking Broncos did, the Steelers. You get up, it's 27-3, okay, we take the foot off the gas. Don't want any turnovers, blah, 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 let them back in the game. And then you lose that momentum on offense, and then you struggle.
Yeah, it's not a big argument. I don't hate this game, but I really don't want to bet it either.
No, I don't want to bet it, but I'm taking New Orleans.
Okay, and don't accuse me of just trying to catch up. But right now I'm taking Cleveland at 6.5. I don't like anyone right now laying that many points, or almost anyone. More accurately, 6.5 is a lot of points right now when I haven't figured out a lot of these teams.
There's some good numbers coming up.
Okay. The next game up is Miami after their blast upset, which you called accurately last week, goes to Buffalo after their blast upset, which we did not call. Miami are 1.5 point favorites going into Buffalo.
This was one of the games I liked.
All right.
I like Miami -1.5.
So do I.
It's not in December when they normally go to Buffalo. I think Buffalo was helped greatly by Jay Cutler and the Bears defense being awful. I don't think they get the same kind of production offensively. I think Miami's front four is better. Their front seven's better than Chicago.
Their front seven is certainly better. Well, everything about that defense is better than Chicago. For all the money Chicago spent, Chicago's defense is still terrible.
If you can hold Brady to 30 yards in the second half.
Well, 69 it turned out to.
Well, yeah.
I mean, a bunch of that was garbage time, too.
Yeah, the last couple of minutes.
And he was captain check down, too. I mean, people rip a lot of quarterbacks for that. I don't think Brady put more than 10 yards on the ball because Miami's pass rush is pretty relentless. And what do you know about Buffalo's O-line? I don't know much, but I do know that Chicago, couldn't produce a sack if they sacrificed a goat.
Well, I didn't watch much of that game, but when you're a 7.5 point dog, I tend to look more at the team that was the favorite than to what they did wrong.
Especially when Buffalo was pinning it on a stirring speech. Like when your PR the following week is what a great leader EJ Manuel is. Like, I don't think he's terrible. I think he's just young and inexperienced. But that seems like a confidence prop up.
Well, it was because they didn't vote him a captain. The players didn't vote him a captain.
Yeah, he wasn't voted the captain, and then they brought in goddamn Horton, which supposedly led to the coach, a near physical alteration between the coach and the front office staff in Buffalo.
Did you mean altercation?
What did I say?
Alteration.
It could have ended in an alteration.
Yeah, of his attitude. Yeah, show these pants, goddammit. I want an alteration.
Hey, I told you, I'm tired tonight.
So it's... No,
we'll
I think
call that an
Dolphins...
Archie Bunkerism.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep this one in the mix. I'm not ready to bet it. Just we'll see if we come up with anything that we like better.
Yes, that was a mistake I think we made last week was
betting Denver before we talked about the other two games.
Yes.
Yeah.
In particular, the Detroit Giants game. So.
Yeah.
All right. The next game up, though, may break that rule that we just set. Arizona is favored by 2.5 versus the Giants.
Yes. Can we bet this right now before that number changes as we're talking?
That's exactly why I was talking about the exception to the rule. I did not want this one to go to 3. I think we're getting a bargain right now at 2.5 and jump on it. Let's nail it.
Yeah. And the Giants are awful. Like, awful. They only scored 14 points against Detroit. How are they scoring any more against Arizona's defense?
And the pass rush, like Rivers, I don't think he had more than 2.5 seconds to throw a ball at any point unless it was 3rd and long. And they weren't bringing a whole bunch of guys. It was swarming. Against a lot of teams, that late Monday night game would have been a rout because they just would have swarmed the offensive line. And San Diego's offensive line isn't good, but they're better than the Giants' offensive line.
And, yes.
And Rivers is better than Manning. I know one has 2 rings, but Rivers is better.
Your receiving core is better. Running game's better in San Diego. Yeah, this was the one game that jumped out at me that went, yes, this is for sure.
It's the only one I got marked with multiple arrows. So, and plus, I love 2.5. So it could easily move to 3, in my opinion, by the time we're done this pod.
I can't believe it's that low, but I guess they're forgetting Arizona travels well now.
Well, and it is a super short week for Arizona. But
and
as
it's
you kind
going
of
to the
west
to east and all that other bullshit that usually you stay away from for teams like this.
But you kind of brought it up on the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. Was the short week, it doesn't matter so much at this point of the season.
No.
Like, that was a point you brought up in Pittsburgh-Baltimore, and I think you were 100% right.
But the west-east thing always plays a factor.
It's a little nerve-wracking, but one team we think is maybe a top 10 team in the league. One we think is somewhere in the bottom 4. And
to be fair, they both had the same short week, so it shouldn't be any advantage there.
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot that the Giants still played on the Monday, too.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be any advantage there. And Coughlin, I don't know what they've got there. Who's drafting? Their skill position, they're lost.
What's the on the point spread, what's the money payout on that?
Minus 110.
Okay, it's still 110. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking if it was a stupid number, we could take Zona straight up at negative 135, but no.
No, it's still better money here. So our $10 bet pays us $19.09. And if you're looking at our picks when Marlon posts them on the website, the ones with the asterisks beside it are the games we bet on.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. I meant to throw it in the post, but I was having some computer problems that night as well, which seems to be a story of our life right now. And I think, what we might sort of do, at least where we know, is point out when we think a team will lose but cover. But that's in the future evolution of this.
Yeah.
Okay, next game up. Atlanta is favored by 5 going to Cincy.
No, they're underdogs.
Atlanta's
plus
you're
5.5.
Yeah, you're correct. Did I mention I was tired? My apologies for that. I like Atlanta.
I don't know if I want to bet on it yet. I
kind of like both teams in this. I look forward to watching this game. I don't know that I want to bet on this game.
Well, they lost their tight end. Cincinnati did, even though they did nothing offensively. He got into the red zone a bunch of times, but couldn't score. They only have A.J. Green, as far as I could see, at wideout in that game.
They bottled up Bernard, except as a pass catching option. You're making a good argument here. Continue.
Well, just the 5.5 seems to be a lot for a team that struggled against a shitty Baltimore team.
Is it 5.5?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 5 when I grabbed this grid only an hour ago.
And I know trends are trendy, but underdogs did very well last week again.
Well, terribly last year, but
yeah, but
they were 11 and underdogs covered 11-5 based on sort of an aggregate spread that people bet at.
And how many won outright? Buffalo won outright, Atlanta won outright, Miami won outright.
Tennessee?
Yeah. Road dog.
This is certainly not the worst game on the board. Let's keep it in the mix.
Yeah.
But
we'll have to go back to that and remember to make our picks if we don't bet on it.
Oh yeah, good point. But I kind of like both of these teams.
The offense is where I thought it would be last year with Atlanta. The 37 points. That's what I thought they'd do. Last year. They've got all the weapons.
They're thin at every position, though.
But the skill
but that
positions,
doesn't matter with this
loaded.
week. That doesn't matter this week because I
They're
don't see
loaded.
any particular health concerns for them right now. As a long season bet, things could become a disaster quickly. And they just lost the next of the Matthews clan as well. So I worry about their O-line.
Is he out?
Oh, yeah, he's out for 6 to 8.
Oh.
So I worry about their O-line a lot.
And they lost the starting left tackle in training camp.
Baker. In a preseason game.
Good call. Okay, we'll leave it in the mix.
Yeah, it's still not the worst thing on the board. The next game up is Jacksonville, 6-point dogs going to Washington.
Okay. Could you explain to me how Washington's a 6-point favorite?
Yeah, this kind of fits what I was saying about no team should be 6.5 at this stage in the season. If I'm not going to take New Orleans over Cleveland at 6.5, well, it is Jacksonville, but
no. But the only reason I can see it being 6 is, do you think they'll turn the ball over as many times as they did last week against Houston? Like I kept asking you, how does RG3 have so many yards passing and they have no points? Well, I think I saw highlights. They fumbled at least twice in the red zone.
The
Redskins.
Skins? Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know what kind of defense Washington has because Ryan Fitzpatrick's a boob. I don't know what Houston is. Or Jacksonville. Sorry, I'm getting confused.
No, I don't know what Jacksonville is, and I don't know what Washington is.
Oh,
So,
me.
do we call this a stay away?
Yes. I'm taking Jacksonville.
So am I. I'm taking the dog to cover.
I don't think Washington has that much offense.
And I'm cheering for Bortles by the second half.
No, Henny had a pretty good first half. I don't know what happened in the second half. I know, but so was Roethlisberger. How many quarterbacks were horrible in the second half?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I certainly don't want to bet this. It's a stay away, and we are both on Jacksonville, though.
Yeah.
To cover. Don't know that I would really think they would win this. This is the ultimate shit team versus shit team.
Oh, there's a couple more coming.
Yay! Expand the league.
I think there's 2 more teams in LA.
All right. The next game up is New England as road favorites of 3 points going to Minnesota.
That's an interesting game.
Very.
See, but St. Louis has nothing.
No. I don't want to overreact to Minnesota.
No,
and I don't want to
I'm
overreact to
the Patriots.
Yes.
But Minnesota's a tough place to play with the noise and everything. Gronkowski is, 60, 70%? And when he's not healthy, their offense is different. They can throw to Edelman, yes, but he's not a threat. Yeah, 9 catches, 95 yards, but what does he do with it? Fuck all. He's Wes Welker light.
But New England's offensive line looked like sterno bums. I mean, Minnesota showed a pass rush, and they showed an ability to run the ball quite effectively versus a stronger front seven than New England has.
That Zimmer's a hell of a coach. I know their defense is going to be decent, regardless of who he's got there anymore and what they've lost and everything else. Cincinnati always played defense for him, regardless. Even last year when Atkins went down, they still made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Out of all the teams from the NFC North on Sunday and Monday, or on Sunday, I should say, Monday, yeah, Detroit. Minnesota was overall probably the most impressive.
Yeah, but it kind of flies a bit in the face of what you so eloquently and angrily stated last week, that the Rams are truly terrible. And also, as a negative to that opinion is...
But the defense...
The bullshit that New England never loses 2 in a row. Which I don't buy into. All dynasties end.
It comes at some point that you don't just win on reputation anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like Minnesota
in
this too, but do I like them enough to bet them?
No. I'm taking them. I'm taking them in my pick.
Yeah, me too. And I'm very intrigued by this game because I think we'll learn a lot about both teams. I mean, don't forget, Minnesota made the playoffs 2 years ago.
Yeah. And the Road Dogs killed last week. Killed. Home Dogs is even better.
Home Dogs, you meant, yeah.
No, Road Dogs killed. Minnesota won on the road. Tennessee won on the road. Who else won on the road? There was 11 wins. Somebody else, Buffalo.
Yep, Buffalo.
That's just outright. That's not covering.
And I want to keep an eye on this game to learn more about both these teams as much as anything else. Minnesota might not be bad. I was not a believer in Cordero Patterson.
He's good, man.
He is. He is good. And, if he can sustain it, and, me and Norv Turner, It's not something I usually say anything without cursing. But who knows? I'm really intrigued by this game. I'm taking Minnesota, but I don't want to bet it.
No. With you there.
Okay.
Sister.
What the fuck did I do to deserve that? Jesus. Really? Where did that come from?
Oh, it was just a joke. It came from nowhere. It was just, I thought it would sound funny, and it got the reaction I wanted.
It did piss me off. This is true.
It's too friendly tonight. Yeah, livening it up a little.
Next game up. Detroit are 3-point underdogs going to Carolina.
See, now if Detroit didn't stink on the road, I would be willing to bet this game, but they stink on the fucking road.
Yep.
And until they prove otherwise, how do you bet them? We've bet them on the road probably half a dozen times in the last 2 years. I think they won once.
Yeah, and do you know what Carolina really is?
No.
Is it possible their backup is better than Cam Newton?
No.
But I don't know. I don't understand what happened in Tampa Bay.
I will say this. I might have drafted the best rookie wideout in the draft.
Oh, and I bid against you.
Teams.
I bid against you, but I just didn't have the money to take him. I had him as an $8 receiver. What did you get him for?
11 or something.
Yeah. No, and good fucking buy. I
now,
love those big, strong motherfuckers who can take the ball in the red zone, and he's shown he can do that already. He is good.
Yeah. So this might be similar to what they're doing Pittsburgh and Baltimore. The Lions are the money line favorite, and the Panthers are the money line underdog. Same numbers as Steelers and Ravens, minus 120 for Detroit.
It's intriguing, but I didn't like what Detroit's defense did in the second half. Carolina's O-line is better. Well, everything about Carolina is better than the fucking Giants.
Underdog on the road. Jesus. Like they won outright half of what the underdogs covered last week.
Well, let's put it in the third talk about later.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I'm really leaning towards
let's leave it out.
Let's
leave it out.
Leave it out and just pick it at pool-wise. Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm going to take Detroit.
Me too. Particularly if Newton plays, because I hurt Newton. You know, Anderson might be better than a hurt Newton.
He could be, but Tampa Bay I don't think has much this year.
That's a team I have no opinion
McCown
on
was thrown to Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey last year. That talent isn't in Tampa.
Yeah, he's gonna get the hook for Glennon really quick. Glennon was marginal to slightly above average in an utterly dysfunctional situation in Tampa Bay, and McCown had 5 good games in his career.
With 2 of the top wideouts in the game.
I want Detroit to prove a little more to me. You know, this week. This will be a good test. It's a good show me game, but I don't want to put any money on it. Next game up is off the table by our rules because you are a Titans fan. Dallas are 3.5-point underdogs going into Tennessee.
Okay, I don't want to jinx this game, but if we don't crush Dallas, something's wrong.
I love this game too. Just the same way I love the Titans as 3.5-point.
Well, they were more than that. They were like 5 or 6.
Well, I didn't even think it was that much. For some reason, 3.5 is in my head. But
no, it was 5 or 6, which I couldn't understand. But
I fucking love this game. We can't bet it. The money line currently is Tennessee minus 200. It's not a terrible money line, for fuck's sake. Or lay the points. I
would
love
lay the
Tennessee in this
points.
game.
Our defense with Horton as the coordinator looked better than I've seen them since they went to the Super Bowl.
Well, I'll
It
say
was
this
really
about
good.
us. Like, you're realistic about your Titans. Optimistic, but realistic. That's your kind of approach as a fan.
Yeah, I probably got too big a chubby for him right now after beating Kansas City because I don't know what Kansas City has, but I know what Dallas has. Not a lot.
No, you're going to have to score some points, but it seems like your offensive talent. You've got two good wideouts. You've got a strange contingent of acceptable backs, and you've got an acceptable tight end who may even turn out to be better than just acceptable.
Yeah.
I don't see how Dallas's defense stops that. I love your O-line. And
we should crush them. Play anything like we did against Kansas City, we should crush them. Des Bryant might give us trouble, but if we get any kind of pass rush, I don't think Murray, the running, we held Jamal Charles to absolutely nothing.
And for all of this, Tennessee is still playing that physical style that has been their identity for a decade.
Well, and we've got one of the best interior linemen in the league.
Yep.
In Jarrell Casey. If you haven't watched him, if you have Sunday ticket, watch him play. He's worth the $40 million they paid him this year for 4 years.
Yeah,
and he's not a head case like dipshit that went. What was his name again?
Yeah, well, again.
Oh Jesus!
The throat stomper.
Hayworth?
No. Oh, Hayworth. Yeah. Yeah, Hayworth. Yeah, you got it.
It's funny.
There.
It's a couple of years out of the league. You can't even remember his name.
No. So we're both on Tennessee on this, and we like the game a lot.
Yeah. It's my 5-star pick. No. No, I just I'm a Tennessee fan. Take it for what it's worth, but I watched the whole game last week. And we looked really good, and I think Kansas City and Dallas are in the same kind of boat. Have some talent on the team, but as an overall team, they're garbage. Romo scares me because he could have one of those games where he puts up 42 points, like he does some games.
He's a wild card. He's like inserting two jokers in a deck at a Hold'em poker game. It could always fuck you one way or the other.
Yeah, but that whole NFC East is awful outside of Philly.
And everyone was talking about how well their defense actually sort of held up. I don't buy that yet. I still think they're going to be one of
San
the worst
Francisco
defenses in history.
San Francisco, Harbaugh, when he gets a lead 21-3, he just goes, okay, we're not taking any chances. We'll run the clock. And I think I called it last week. I said how they were going to do it.
Absolutely.
Keep Dallas off the
field. You
field.
said at the end of the game, there's going to be a lot of carries just to eat the clock. No, you absolutely 100% called it last week.
So I'm hoping we can do the same thing. And Locker looked really good. Really good. And last 2 years I've said this and he got hurt. So I'm hoping I'm not jinxing him again. Because he looks really good. We covered this
in last night's podcast. The flukiness of some of his injuries, etc. So let's move on.
All right.
We have Seattle as 5.5-point favorites going into San Diego, which will almost certainly be filled with Seattle fans.
Yes.
In the worst stadium in the league.
But no, I think Dallas might be the worst stadium in the league. You see how many 49er fans were there last week?
Well, yeah, that's because they sold it as a tourist destination. I'm talking about the actual stadium in the league, which is some sort of crumbling piece of concrete. You know, if they catch a good earthquake that far south, Qualcomm could totally fall apart.
But we can't bet this game.
No, we can't bet this game. Take Seattle. If you listen to the podcast from last night, I was very encouraged by a lot of things from San Diego, but we are not in the same league as Seattle at this stage. We're just not.
No. I'm taking Seattle all the way in this game, even though I like what San Diego did.
I think San Diego's a good team, but I said when the schedule came out, we start 0-2, possibly 0-3. And to tell you the truth, part of me is happy. I don't mind facing these NFC West opponents early.
No, you get them out of the way, and
Yeah. And then we can feast on some of the softer guys in our schedule. So
just hope you don't get too banged up before you get to the softer part of your schedule.
Yeah, the early part of the schedule is kind of like me in training camp. I just don't want anyone to get hurt. And San Diego is a good team. Like they're not a joke, by the way. I'm not just writing them off or being super negative, but we're not in the class of Seattle, which is still on that buzz. When you look at the Super Bowl champions who fail to win a playoff game, most of them come out hot, and then it's weeks 4 through 9 where all that attrition starts to happen. But they often come out and they win their next couple of games. And so we're just the sacrificial lamb to Seattle this week. And as far as it being a road game, Seattle, San Diego, we're on the same coast. It almost doesn't class as a road game.
No,
right.
It doesn't. I totally agree. And I hope for your sake, because I know you cheer as hard for the Chargers as I do for the Titans, that they don't get injured. You don't lose like Rivers to a bad sack or something like that.
Yeah, or any more depth on the O-line, or, and San Diego, showed a lot in Zona, another great defense, but home field doesn't mean sweet fuck all.
Not anymore.
This is an 8.5 point line masquerading as a 5.5 point line. Jump all over it, people.
Yeah, and Seattle's offense is better this year, I think, than last year even, which I hate to say.
Yeah, I think they're much better. So, moving on. The next game is the Rams. 6-point dogs going to Tampa Bay.
Stay away.
It's a stay away.
I don't know what either of these teams have. I don't know if the Rams I don't think they're as bad as what they showed against Minnesota. I think Fisher panicked by benching his quarterback in the second half and saying he got banged up.
It's a legendary coach. How else could you say, oh, he hurt his calf, no, he hurt his quad, no, he was pulled for performance. Like, panics? Like, how does he get this reputation as a great leader? And you've always been, he had some good seasons with your Titans, but you've always kind of been saying, why does Jeff Fisher have this reputation as a really great coach?
He was a 500 coach, basically, in Tennessee. That's what he was. So, and he played every game to win 6-3. Like, in this day and age, his mode is outdated of how he tries to win games. He might have a good defense, but you're not going to win games 6-3, 10-7. You're not. You got to put up close to 30 to win. That's what you need to win now, is close to 30, between 25 and 30 points a game to win, if your defense is average. Yeah. You're not going to have games or defenses like the Ravens, where they allow with the way it's officiated now and the game set up to throw the ball for maximum points. You need to be scoring close to 30 and hope your defense can hold the other team under 30, because everybody's trying to get to that same mark. So,
and he seems utterly clueless in how to use Tavon Austin. I mean, let's just go to Minnesota. Cordero and Tavon are similar in their skill set. One coach or one coordinator, Norv Turner, figured out against St. Louis, who has a pretty stout defense. But he figured out how to use this crazy fast player with hands. And Tavon Austin may not have 500 yards of total offense in his career yet.
Well, and the other question mark is Zach Stacy had 11 carries for 47 yards. He was their offense the second half of the season last year. You lost your starting quarterback.
But he only got
3.
in there because Daryl Richardson was going to be the bell cow, and he went through 4 games before he gave up on that. Is he just now giving up on another running back?
No, but when you lose your starting quarterback in week 3, would you not lean on your running game more? That's Fisher's MO. I thought he'd carry it 25 times.
Yeah, so did I, but there's, a running back who gets the carries. I hate
Just stay
this
away
game.
from this.
This is an utter stay away game.
I'm taking...
Put a gun to my head, I'm going to take Tampa.
Oh, man.
And I hate the idea of laying 6 with Tampa.
No, I'm taking the Rams just based on how underdogs did last week.
Okay.
That's the only reason. No confidence in that pick.
It's as good a reason as I have, man.
I have no confidence in that pick, whether I took Tampa Bay or St. Louis. I'm just going on last week.
I have no idea what either of these teams are, or whether they're particularly interested in playing football. All right, next game up. The Jets go to the Midwest, and they get 8 points versus the Packers.
I don't want to bet this one either.
8 is that number that took me off the game.
6.5, I'd probably say yes.
Yep, it's my feelings as well.
But I don't know what the Packers have. To be honest, I know they're better than the Jets offensively.
I know they have that.
And Buddy Ryan, Rex Ryan, his defense is always there. Regardless of how the offense is doing, they play pretty well on defense.
And they've beaten the Patriots at home when the Patriots were much better than the current incarnation. Yeah, I'm really uncomfortable with this. And Lacey is still under concussion protocol, isn't he?
I believe so. I haven't heard any different. But then again, everything's just been about Ray Rice, so maybe he is, maybe he isn't.
Yeah, fair enough. This is one of those games where, follow our Twitter. Right now,
I'm taking the Jets, even though they can't score.
And I'm taking the Pack. But this is one that is highly fluid because we're not actually laying our money right now. It's highly fluid. I'm watching Green Bay's injury. Their defense is kind of like Chicago's in that they spend a lot of money and their defense is still terrible.
Yep. Couldn't stop the run, which is a little bit of a Jet strength right now, I believe.
That running back by committee with the 3 of them didn't look so bad. Admittedly, it was Oakland, though, so what do we know? Nothing. Right now, I'm leaning towards Green Bay, but there's an excellent chance I will move and take the Jets later in the week.
This was probably the worst week 1 to try and figure out who's who of any year in the last few years that we've been doing this. Like, there's who stood out outside of Seattle that you would think, woo, there's a team I got to worry about come January.
Yeah.
Fucking Denver.
Same old Denver. Defense looked great in the first half. And
it's Indy. He's moved that fucking Indy team to Denver. I thought they had repaired the defense. Nah, not really. But anyway, okay. So we're both.
There's a better chance to fight for the also-rans right now. Yeah. Because unless Seattle starts to show cracks, they're the team right now. Okay. So you're
So I've
taking the
got the
Jets to
Jets.
cover, and I'm
And
on
you're taking
Green
Green
Bay,
Bay.
but with massive hesitation. All right, next game up. KC is getting 13. Going to Denver.
If Denver would have covered last week, I'd take this game.
Yep.
I'm not touching it.
No, I believe you sent me a text called Never Again.
No, it was fucking never again.
Oh, okay.
You forgot out the best adjective. You left out the best adjective.
Okay, well, you could put an exclamation point and kind of get the same thing, but...
So, I'm taking Denver based on what Tennessee did to Kansas City. Their offense looked atrocious. They lost 2 defensive starters to Achilles injuries out for the year. Their best linebacker, Derek Johnson.
And I always thought their defense was kind of a bullshit mirage. I mean, they packed on stats playing second and third string quarterbacks for like 7 weeks in a row last year. I always thought
we can't forget that Brandon
horseshit.
Flowers is now in Arizona.
No, Brandon Flowers is now in San Diego.
Is in San Diego, okay. I couldn't remember. I saw him in the game last night, but that was their best corner.
Yeah, and he kind of like Revis in Tampa Bay, they tried to force him into a situation which didn't fit his skill set. I hate coaches like that, by the way. I can't stand coaches who have this philosophy and try to force players into a role that they are not suited for. A good coach takes the players he has and adjusts his philosophy to fit the athletes. Because you know what? Coaches are replaceable. You can study that in school. You can sit down with books. Athletic talent, you can't. You adjust your schemes to fit the players, not the other fucking way around.
Yeah, and they signed him for big money, too.
Who?
Oh, weren't you talking about Flowers?
Yeah, no, Flowers, it's like a 1-year deal for decent money, and I think we have an option on number 2, and that was my favorite thing that happened to the Chargers in the offseason. I really like Flowers. I think he's maybe not elite, but he is far, far, far above average. I really like him.
And he was better than what you had.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, for Eddie Royal basically screwing up a route and giving up an interception and dropping a few balls, he and Flowers are buddies, and supposedly it was Royal who convinced him to try the Chargers, so good on you, Eddie.
Yeah. But I'm taking Denver in this game all the way.
I am too. I think KC is a disaster.
I'm not going through another fucking debacle like Sunday night where I'm praying that and to be honest, I hate cheering for Peyton Manning. It made me almost sick to my fucking stomach.
As much as it does me, we're on the same page on this. If this game were 7.5,
yeah,
we
I would
might
take it
be
again.
talking a different story, but 13, come on.
But I'm still taking them.
Oh yeah, me too.
And more based on what Kansas City did last week than what Denver did. Because they scored, for what everybody talking about Pittsburgh and the Patriots, the Broncos did nothing in the second half either. They had 1 touchdown in the second half. That was it.
Clock. Either.
Otherwise, it looked like shit.
I would accept a team with a massive lead doing nothing offensively in the second half.
Yeah, but they didn't even run the clock out.
But exactly. It's an acceptable strategy if you run the clock.
And we talked about it yesterday, so I don't want to get back into it again because it'll just piss me off.
Okay, next game up. Houston are 3-point favorites going to Oakland.
Don't mind this game.
You're leaning towards Houston?
Yes, I am.
All right. I like this game quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, me too. To be honest, it was one of the 3 that jumped out at me. I
really don't hate this game. I know Clowney is out, but Watt is still a force of fucking nature.
But they had a good defense last year without Clowney.
Exactly.
And it didn't do anything to diminish my expectations on Sunday. I know they gave up a lot of yards.
Their corners are weak, but do you really think Carr is progressed enough to exploit it?
Well, he didn't do it against the Jets,
who had a terrible pass defense and an amazing rush defense the previous year.
Yeah.
It's not like the Jets have a superb pass D. No, this is definitely in the conversation.
Okay, so that gives us 4 in the conversation now for 2 games. So
when one booked. Oh yeah, yep. Okay, yeah, 4. Yeah,
we got 4 now that we got to talk about. So
Oakland has no running game. Hang on, I just want to touch up. Oakland has no running game. Streeter is their best receiver, who would be an acceptable number 3 on most teams. Don't trust Houston's offense, but no, I like Houston every which way in this. Okay, next game up. We have Chicago as 7-point dogs going to San Francisco. This for me is an absolute motherfucking stay away.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are.
Well, I'm taking San Francisco because I think I know who Chicago is. I just don't want to bet on it yet.
That's reasonable.
Cutler reminds me of Romo. They've got Des Bryant, who's either Jeffrey or Marshall, if you want to call it that. And San Francisco shut down Dallas, basically.
They got a little bit lucky, which is why I'm backing off. I think San Fran's defense is in this transition stage between suspensions and, starting wife beaters. Their defense didn't knock me out. I'm not saying they won't impress me by the end of the year.
3 picks?
Those were Romo picks, 2 of them.
Yeah, but Cutler's Romo. Romo's Cutler.
It's a good point.
They're the same guy. They make throws that just make you go, wow, and then they throw one that just makes you go, what the fuck are you seeing? Like Patrick Willis said after that game, I couldn't believe he threw it.
Well, we were watching that one. And there was also one in the middle of the field that was every bit as disastrous. Like, did you not see a defensive lineman? I believe he gave up a pick to a defensive lineman.
Yeah, Cutler, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're the same quarterback.
That's a really good point, and I think you're on that. Plus, I'm going to predict that Carlos Hyde has his first 100-yard game.
He's a monster.
And gets at least 2 touchdowns. And again, for all the money Chicago spent,
they're no better.
Is so goddamn soft.
They're no better.
I mean, this won't be the show me game for Kaepernick because if he exceeds 20 passes, I think something has crumbled in San Fran's offensive game plan.
And watching
they're just going to keep smashing it up the stomach.
Yeah. And watching San Francisco, I drafted a running back in the fantasy 1 year early. I had LaMichael James last year. I should have went for Carlos Hyde this year.
Carlos Hyde I bid on too, but the price got too high.
He looks like the best rookie running back so far.
He was one of my top 5 priorities at our fantasy auction this year. And I couldn't go that far because at that point I had no depth in running back or wide receiver. And I would have been screwed, but I really like Carlos Hyde, and I think this is going to be his first 100-yard game.
Yeah.
Anyone who plays fantasy out there, if anyone's stupid enough in your league to not have Carlos Hyde, seize him. Seize him now. Gore's going to probably get 100 too. I think Chicago's going to give up close to 250 on the ground. I think Kaepernick will do nothing, but I won't hold it against him because he shouldn't have to.
No. And that's the one thing with, you say Kaepernick's just show me a year, but their offensive philosophy is run the ball until they stop the run.
Oh, I know, but it says the same thing about Russell Wilson. Both of them are in the same situation. Like, those guys are going to be linked for the rest of their career.
Well, yeah, just because they play in the same division, they're going to play each other twice a year.
And they're on two of the best teams, and both, for the most part, haven't been required to win games on their own. But I like Chicago. I don't want to bet them just because I still am not a believer in the Niners yet, even though the argument I just made it sound like I was, so maybe I am. But we got lots of other games we like. And that's the Sunday night game. And to wrap up the week, we have the Monday night game. Philly are 3-point underdogs going to Indy.
Now, I don't want to bet this game. The only way I'd bet it was betting the over-under. And you know how much I hate to bet that.
Oh, you've actually refused. I think you threatened my life at one point if I ever suggested an over-under bet.
But these two defenses are very poor, and the offenses are fairly good. And it's 53.5. They could hit close to that in the first half.
Yeah.
But
that's a good call, Boyd.
I'm not betting it.
No.
But that's where I would look. If you had me bet this game, I would go the over of 53.5. Because the Eagles scored, what did they score in the second half? 34?
Yep.
And I know the last touchdown was shit, but still 34 points in the second half.
Yeah, so, and that's even without, like, Shady McCoy had a terrible game. There's weapons there. Andrew Luck is amazing. Everyone seems to forget that he runs the ball as well as any of these other running quarterbacks, a la Cam or RG3. He makes his team better. The O-line's terrible, but somehow he slithers out of there. It's amazing.
So, yeah, okay, in this game, I'm taking the Eagles.
I'm going to take Indy simply because of the home field.
I think they score. I think Philly scores more.
Indy in that dome is impressive, and Philly didn't knock. Neither team knocked me out, but Indy playing Denver seems like a tougher test than Philly playing Jacksonville.
Like, I was thinking back to the Eagles last year. Did Foles not struggle a little bit the first few games, and then he just went crazy? If I'm remembering correctly.
Struggle is there was a Dallas game, which we actually had Dallas on, and he got knocked out about 10, 12 minutes into the first quarter, if memory serves. And then when he came back from the concussion, he was fairly flawless.
So I'm hoping it was just a bad half. Because he looked good in the second. He put up decent numbers in the second half.
Yeah.
And the defense played way better in the second half. I just think they've got a little more than... They've got more talent, more weapons right now than Indy.
But they are on the road, and that's why I'm taking Indy. Indy at home is still a tough game. They beat Seattle at home by scoring a bazillion points. Seattle's defense is better than Philly's defense. I know things don't translate year to year necessarily, but that's my reasoning.
Okay, so now we've got 4 games to choose from to make 2 bets.
Okay, right now I just kind of want to take Atlanta and Cincy off.
Okay, done. I'm taking Atlanta in that game.
Just looking at the spread, sorry.
5.5.
Yeah, 5's too much. I got to take Atlanta. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay. Our next game up is Miami, -1.5 in Buffalo.
I think we bet that one.
I think we do too.
I know we paused on it, but I think that's one. Okay.
Yeah, Miami's coming together a little bit.
So we've got...
And actually, there's only a third game because we didn't actually mark the Detroit. We ended up deciding to stay away from that early.
Okay, so we've got Miami -1.5 in Buffalo. $10 pays $19.09. That is booked.
All right. And our final game by process of elimination here, really, is Houston -3 at Oakland. I kind of like this one, Boyd.
Yeah, I do too. I was thinking, well, we both agreed on Atlanta. That might not be such a bad pick either, but no, the line at +105 -3.
Yep.
I don't mind getting a little edge.
So we are on 3 favorites again, bucking the trend of underdogs.
So basically, we got to hope we get all 3. There was only 5 favorites covered last week, so we had to get 3 out of 5. Okay, so
that said, what we did was, which is very much our pattern, is we bet against teams that we think are terrible, with the possible exception of Buffalo that we worry about.
Yeah, and even I don't know what Houston is. Betting on Ryan Fitzpatrick worries me, but I'm going with it because I don't think. I think their defense will win the game for them.
Yep. And
Oakland's running game isn't.
I said
They're
in the
not going to run.
offseason, I was a big Houston backer this year.
Yeah.
And I wasn't last year, and I was the year before. You know, I've had a pretty good pulse on that team. Okay. So now that I've jinxed myself.
Yeah. Us. So, okay, we got Houston -3 at Oakland. $10 pays $20.50. And there you go. And now, have we made all the picks? We haven't missed a game.
No, we haven't missed a game. I got no blanks on my sheet. I will email them to you to confirm them.
Well, no, if you've got them written down, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Just post them. If I see something I want to change, I'll tweet it. But Doug, get your picks in. And Marlon, did you want to recap our bets? I know we just made them at the last.
Okay, we have Arizona -2.5 versus the Giants in New York. $10 pays $19.09.
That's the bet your mortgage payment one, to quote Jason Whitlock.
We have Miami -1.5 at Buffalo. We like Miami. We don't know about Buffalo. $10 pays $19.09. And we have Houston -3 going into Oakland. $10 pays $20.50.
See, we have to come up with our own saying for that. Like, bet your weed money or bet something. This is the bet your weed money pick.
Yeah, but I'm not that confident about anything this week. Actually, I really like Arizona.
Arizona,
I really like Arizona.
The other ones, it's still too early, but Arizona had a good defense last year, and the Giants look just as bad. Eli hasn't. He looks as bad. They could be between Dallas. Well, the NFC East, the 3 teams in the bottom could be 3 of the 5 worst teams in football by the end of the year.
And they played hard, and they played a good offense in my Chargers, and they gave up 17.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if it turns out that the Chargers offense isn't good.
And did Deshaun Jackson do anything for Washington?
I never even bothered to look it up.
But I didn't hear his name mentioned much.
No. It was Captain Checkdown. It's like he's trying to turn RG3 into Andy Dalton, who, he'll get a ton of yards. But, he won't throw the ball more than 8 yards. And there's no A.J. Green equivalent on Washington.
No.
All right, I think that is it for tonight.
Woohoo! All right, if you want to check out our podcast, it's on iTunes or Stitcher for your Android device, on our website, offensivelines.ca. Follow us on Twitter at offensivelines, or on our personal Twitter accounts at olinesmarlon or at olinesboyd. Facebook.com/offensivelines. And if you'd like to contact us, you can email the show at offensivelines@shaw.ca. I'm Boyd.
I'm Marlon, and that was the Offensive Lines Week 2 picks.
Emily Manning for the loss.
Generous fucking gambler.